This is KBOI 2 News Midday.
The Boise River now flowing around 8,300 cubic feet per second. As river levels continue to rise even more, the Army Corps of Engineers is reinforcing a levee in Eagle. If that levee fails, neighbors along the river in Eagle are being told they should be ready to evacuate. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sierra Oshrin. The river is expected to hit 8,500 CFS by later today. And in Garden City, they are dealing with their own flooding concerns, especially in the warehouse district between 45th and 48th Streets. KBOI 2's Devin Caney shows us how one business is going to extreme lengths to protect its property.
I go to this one, and this shows you the river itself.
Donna Celine is the property manager for this warehouse complex right along the Boise River. Each day she checks water levels so she can keep her tenants safe. And she's being cautious because she doesn't trust the projections.
Even though this doesn't
Governor Otter has vetoed a bill that would have repealed the 6% grocery sales tax. Otter announced his decision last night. That's after telling 670 KBOI Radio's Nate Shellman that no call would be announced until today. In a letter, the governor said the cost of the proposal was too high, saying the general fund would be reduced by $80 million. And new at 11, Idaho's Lieutenant Governor Brad Little commented on the veto, saying in part, quote, "While I am disappointed by the governor's veto, I remain committed to tax reform, including a more sustainable solution for all Idahoans on the grocery tax. Removing grocery tax for all Idahoans remains the right thing to do, and I look forward to traveling the state and visiting with Idahoans about all taxes that impede on their ability to prosper." The state transportation funding bill has become law, but not with Otter's signature. The governor did not sign or veto it, and yesterday was the deadline. The nearly $320 million plan uses bonds to pay for new road projects and repays it with future federal highway payments. Otter said he allowed the bill to become law because he couldn't risk ignoring the state's crumbling roads and bridges. And the U.S. Secretary of State is in Moscow for intense talk with his Russian counterpart and Vladimir Putin. As the two countries discuss their sharp differences over Syria, Craig Boswell reports the conflict in Syria is the major talking point.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov shook hands, then traded sober opening remarks.
And to further clarify areas of sharp difference so that we can better understand why these differences exist.
The conflict in Syria is one of the biggest rifts.
According to a U.S. Embassy spokesperson, Secretary Tillerson and Putin are meeting at the Kremlin. We expect to hear from Tillerson after that meeting. Stick with KBOI 2 News throughout the day for more on this meeting and follow us on social media. Download our KBOI 2 News mobile app for news between newscasts. And the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer is apologizing after comparing the Syrian regime to a Holocaust and Adolf Hitler.
It really is painful to myself to know that I did something like that because that obviously was not my intention. And to know when you screw up that you possibly offended a lot of people, I just, and so I would ask obviously for folks' forgiveness.
Spicer also said it's disappointing because he thinks he let the president down. Mr. Trump has yet to comment. Happening now, a manhunt that started in Wisconsin continues today as a national investigation. More than 150 law enforcement officers are looking for a man who they believe is armed and extremely dangerous. More than a week ago, this man had a friend record him as he mailed a handwritten long letter manifesto to President Trump. He then stole 18 firearms, ammunition, and 2 gun silencers from a gun store. Police are looking into more than 400 leads right now and say the search has stretched well beyond just Wisconsin. Happening now, a federal jury in Las Vegas is hearing closing arguments in the trial investigating a ranching standoff in Nevada. Back in 2014, 6 men accused of wielding weapons to stop federal agents from rounding up cattle. That involves an Idaho man. We talked to Scott Drexler's daughter back in February, and she says his year-long wait in prison has taken a toll on her father.
He's holding up. It's been really hard. Obviously, there's been better days and bad days.
If convicted, Drexler could face up to 100 years in prison. If not, he could be back in Idaho immediately. And tax day is coming. The deadline for filing your taxes was supposed to be on April 15th, so now it's less than a week away. But since Saturday, you have until April 18th. That's this upcoming Tuesday. And a truck is fallen over earlier today on the interstate. Traffic is now moving smoothly on I-84 east of Boise. Just hours ago, during the morning commute, this was the scene. A semi-truck on its side had traffic backed up for miles. Idaho State Police now say the driver of this truck fell asleep on the road and crashed. He was taken to the hospital. The truck was tipped up right after a couple hours, and after crashing, the traffic was able to move again. You can now get your library materials easier with a new curbside pickup system. Just pull up to the green striped paint in front of the library, give the library a call, and they'll come out with your books or movies. It's available at the main library in downtown Boise and the library at Cole and Ustick. Now coming up on KBOI 2 News Midday. A year after Twin Falls made national headlines, we'll tell you how the city is trying to move on. That's next. And later, a local man pedaling for a cause. After a setback yesterday, how far he'll have to ride today in order to make it on his day 3 destination. And here's a look at what's coming up next tonight on KBOI 2 News. We've got Survivor at 7 o'clock, Criminal Minds back to back from 8 and 9, and then of course join us here on KBOI 2 News at 10.